So, welcome back to a sort of young person's guide to prog rock. I am your host, Ian Prize, and we are introducing Season 2. I am joined today by Ryan Robison.
Hello, Ian.
Hello. So, we've had a wild and wacky time learning about the first era of prog, where we introduced all of the bands that will really blossom with this, the second season of prog. So I split this season into 3 parts. So we start with the Tapas era. So this is the sweet little tasters of each of our big hitter bands. And we start with Yes's Fragile. So the big story for this is they add and introduce prog legend keyboardist Rick Wakeman. And this album is literally a tapas album in so much as it is a taster album where each of the band members gets their own track in addition to the 4 main tracks.
Well, thankfully, they don't let them all cook at once. That would be...
Yeah.
No, they're neatly separated. The food isn't touching, and it works really well. Like you said, it's a peek into the little window of what each one of the members was actually capable of. There are some songs here that you'll recognize as, we'll call them big hits, and I think you're in for a treat.
You are. And I think this is when Yes becomes Yes. We have the first of the Roger Dean album covers, which, if you know anything about prog, you'll know Roger Dean. This has, of course, Rick Wakeman. This has more of John Anderson, their singers, completely insane lyrics. And it has Roundabout, probably prog's signature song. So This has all of the first makings of classic prog. So we then go on to Pink Floyd on the very cusp of their epic run with 1971's Metal. So the big story of Metal is the epic 20-minute song Echoes, but on the other side of the album, there's some quite delicious appetizers. So this is Pink Floyd right before they take off.
This is 100% a Dark Side of the Moon amuse-bouche, and you will recognize many of the flavors to come. Actually, a little bit like Fragile. This album, to me, is Pink Floyd becoming the Pink Floyd that you know.
Yeah, and you'll hear their maturity, and we'll get into what that actually means when we get to Metal. And then we come to Emerson, Lake and Palmer's 1972's Trilogy. So this is Emerson, Lake and Palmer having a little bit of fun and showing their range. So we've got some epic, organ and Hammond and Mellotron belters. We've got a Greg Lake romantic song. Mm-hmm. We've got some classical covers, and we've got some western, some country western. So they cover the ground on this album.
I was going to say, if you thought you were going to skip needing your cowboy hat for this pod, you'd be wrong.
Yeah, you need chaps, you need cowboy hats, you might even need spurs. So, I guess from this little tiny sub-era, what would be the songs you suggest from each of these albums? So I think Fragile for me is very easy. We will get to our personal favorites when we get to this episode, but I would say for everyone, you just got to listen to Roundabout. It is prog's song. Yeah,
as much as I want to say Heart of the Sunrise, don't start there. Start with Roundabout. I think it's actually a perfect song.
Yep. It's both Prog's Stairway to Heaven, it's Prog's Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
And it's not trite, it's that popular because it's that good.
Yeah, it encapsulates everything that's good about prog. So for Metal, Echoes is, of course, the insider's favorite song. But do you have another song off of the other side of Metal when they have 5 normal songs?
I'm going Fearless 100 times over. Yeah. Probably my favorite song on that album.
Yep. So Fearless is a nice digestible 4 minutes that's starting to show Pink Floyd shedding their psychedelic weight and just having fun.
Yep.
And playing nice, normal, good songs. So Fearless from Pink Floyd. And then do you have one from Trilogy?
God help me, I'm picking my second instrumental from them. It's Hoedown. And another cover that another tune they didn't write.
Okay, so you're going Hoedown from Trilogy. That works. So I think, again, I promise when you get to the episode, you'll hear us gush about Greg Lake's voice. But
oh, yes.
Hoedown is an absolute masterclass in their instrumental capabilities. So
I think I'm picking it because that song and The Barbarian, those are the prog songs that no other band would do. That's why I'm picking them.
Yep.
No one else would do that.
Yeah. So this is Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and we're going with Hoedown. Fantastic. So we go on to the second phase of season 2, which is my 4 crown jewels of prog. So we kick it off with Genesis's Selling England by the Pound. This is the Peter Gabriel era Genesis masterpiece. So this is when the instrumentation and Gabriel's theatrics and all of the lyrics and everything come together perfectly to create what I believe they thought was a meditation on England, but is actually just a bunch of hilarious little English tales. Either way, Genesis is Selling England by the Pound. Fantastic.
And this one, if you think somebody at some point was going to say, "Hey, Pete, why don't we reel it in a little bit?" Oh no, he turns the reactor to 110 and just goes for it.
Yeah,
it's the best version of that.
Yeah, this is the high point of Peter Gabriel's theatrics. So we last left Jethro Tull when they had made Aqualung, and according to them, all of the critics said concept album. And to make fun of them, they made a ironic concept album, which ironically became the best concept album, which is, of course, Thick as a Brick. So this is an incredible follow-up to Aqualung, and it takes all of the amazing compositions and, of course, makes it into one long song. So for me, amazingly, and this is because my brain has been addled with prog, there's no fat on this bone. This is an amazing song, all 45 minutes of it, and yeah, this is just yet another masterpiece from Jethro Tull.
I would tend to agree, and the self-awareness is delicious, and that's what makes it fun and unpretentious. And I would say, for those of you who enjoy things like Jethro Tull is, I don't even know if I could call them a prog band. They're a band that happened to make some prog albums, but they are not afraid of the riff.
Yep.
And on this album, they're not either.
Yep, there's great riffs. There's flute solos.
Oh, yes.
And there's actually some surprisingly incredible lyrics, considering that this is supposed to be a ironic take on a concept album. But for me, this is some of prog's best lyrics. So a band that did not have that problem is, of course, Yes. So we come to probably one of the best albums of prog and best albums of all time. Yes is Close to the Edge. So this is Yes just going to town. And they perfect their trademark, which will be the very, very, very long song. So we have the title song, Close to the Edge, which is 18 minutes of pure brilliance, and they have 2 10-minute songs on the other side. All in all, this is just great lyrics, great instrumentation, all around amazing.
But fear not, everyone. These songs do not meander, they do not noodle, they do not jam. They have a beginning, middle, and end, and this is Yes at their creative peak telling stories.
Yeah. And they use every minute correctly.
Yes. Now don't read too far into John's lyrics. They meant something very special to him.
They mean something special to us.
You're very free to interpret them to mean what you need them to mean.
Exactly. It's whatever journey you need to go on. So we're not even going to bother talking about this next album because I frankly don't know what you're doing on this podcast if you've never heard of Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd's 1973 masterpiece. So they were a 6-year-long overnight success. And of course they arrive with this album, Dark Side of the Moon. So we'll get into it on a massive 3-parter. It's just everything.
Yeah, considering this is one of the best-selling albums in the history of music, period. Yeah, what else is there to say?
What else is there to say? So we'll talk about that for 3 hours. But but yes, this is the classic album cover. This is the beautiful guitar. This is the amazing lyrics. This is the perfect concept album. We'll get to it when we get to it. So for both Dark Side of the Moon and Thick as the Brick, I'm not going to ask what your suggestions are for songs.
You basically can.
Because they are one song and Dark Side of the Moon. But for Selling England by the Pound, do you have a suggestion?
This is going to be the second time I do it, but to call out the album opener, Dancing with the Moonlit Night, there's nothing that encapsulates what Peter Gabriel's all about better than that song, I think.
And I think also the band comes in and backs him up, so you get the blend of his theatrics, his pseudo-mythological medieval singing, and amazing riffs.
Well, and they make herky-jerky song dynamics arguably work really well. Because that album is a little bit, or excuse me, that song is a little bit like the Donkey Kong Country minecart ride in terms of how quickly you're shifted from one dynamic to another, but you're ready.
Yes, absolutely.
You'll have fun and it doesn't fall off the rails.
So I was going to say, actually, now that I'm looking at this, it's completely redundant to say, so Thick as a Brick is one long song. So I don't have a suggestion for that. Close to the Edge is 3 long songs. So honestly, you could pick any of the 3 of them.
You could. I would say the first 2, being Close to the Edge.
So Close to the Edge
and You and I.
Yeah.
I can't pick one. I can't do it.
Nope.
Just listen to them both.
Listen to them both. It's just the best prog had to offer.
Yeah. And the 2 songs are very different. I can't pick one. I can't do it.
Yeah. And then Dark Side of the Moon, just literally anything.
And I'll go ahead and argue it's one song.
Yeah. So, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. So, we then come on to the third part of Season 2, which is, of course, prog's Rising Phoenix era and or the Dumpster Fire era. So this is when prog blooms and all of the bands we have talked about, all of the bands we love, reach their final form. So we're really only going to talk about 4 bands in this part of the podcast, but we start with Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Brain Salad Surgery. So we left them with Trilogy, which was fun and delightful. And as Emerson, Lake and Palmer are wont to do, they do all of it again, but they do it more. So they were already at 11. Now they're going up to like a 15.
Well, and if you're thinking, boy, this is the era of music that needs more H.R. Giger album art, well, you're in luck.
You are in luck. So this, again, is a maximalist outing from a maximalist band. So we'll get into the good, the bad, and the ugly with that album.
Because, yeah, this is about the time that Keith has a piano that flips over on itself, if I'm not mistaken.
He will be lifted on a rotating piano on stage. So this is everything. This is the Persian rug era for Greg Lake. This is the massive 2-ton steel drum set era for Carl Palmer. Again, Emerson, Lake and Palmer never restrained themselves. So God bless them. We come on to Yes's wild mid-70s. So after Close to the Edge, they go on to do Tales from Topographic Oceans. And I dare say, because of this album, which is 4 20-minute long songs, they became the punchline of prog. We will argue back and forth. I'm going to say it was unfair that they became the punchline, but they absolutely become the joke, be it inside or otherwise, of prog.
Well, I think I've heard you say this on more than one occasion, Ian. They learn all the wrong lessons with this one.
So Close to the Edge was a 20-minute long masterpiece, and so they're like, well, we'll do 4 of those. They will go back to that well for their 1974 relayer, and then they'll come back for a sort of poppier, classic rockier going for the one in 1977, but we'll get into mid-70s Yes in all of their highs, lows, and everything in between.
And I say this with the utmost love and the utmost adoration for Yes, but boy, that Rising Phoenix flies really close to that dumpster full of oily rags.
It is a wild ride, but perhaps a wilder ride is King Crimson's, and I say mid-70s, but it was really only 2 years. King Crimson will reform for 1972, 73, and basically flame out by 74 for their mid-70s trilogy, Lark's Tongue and Aspic, Starless and Bible Black, and Red. So in this part of King Crimson's career, we get quote-unquote challenged by their blend of European classical music, jazz, unbelievable amounts of like improv, and just a wild soundscape.
If you don't happen to like free jazz, there's a few tracks to skip, but you shouldn't skip it all. It is something that you need to hear, and if you want to hear where the frontman of Asia originally comes from, you get to. And it truly is a treat. There are some sublime moments on these albums.
So if you've made it to this part of the podcast, you'll get to hear perhaps the most acquired taste of prog, but it's a taste worth acquiring. And then the last band we'll talk about in this part of the podcast is Jethro Tull. So skipping a few albums ahead, in which Ian Anderson and the gang kind of floundered in the prog wilderness, Ian Anderson will move out to the British countryside, rediscover his love of nature, his love of English folk, and their final form will become actually less proggy. And this album, Songs from the Wood, will kick off Jethro Tull's so-called folk trilogy. This is probably the most delightful version of a band truly becoming themselves. And yeah, it's just a fun, easy breezy, lovable album. So that will be a special episode when we get there.
They actually take us to the Shire on this one.
Oh my God, they take us to the Shire. The wild, wild Shire. So it feels weird to say, but out of these kind of 4 bands, is there any specific tracks you want to highlight that people might enjoy? So we'll start with Brain Salad Surgery.
You know, I'm going to break with tradition. I'm not going to give you another cover because technically Jerusalem is also a cover. We'll do Carnival 9. That's another one where somehow this gets radio airplay. This is their ultimate theatrical performance, this song, including the ridiculous lyrics.
Yeah.
Gotta hear it.
Yes. So they will be doing a 30-minute rock opera on Brain Salad Surgery about a dystopian future. They will cut out 4 minutes of that for Carnival 9, spelled stupidly. So that's what I would suggest from Brain Salad Surgery as well. So from mid-70s, yes, do you have one song that you think is just worth people getting a taste for what they were up to?
Give yourself the first 10 minutes of The Revealing Science of God. You might like it.
Okay. I like that one. Okay. First 10 minutes of Revealing Science of God off of Tales from Topographic Oceans. So for King Crimson's mid-70s trilogy, what would you say?
So I personally have a lot of favorites here because this is my favorite era, but we'll go with Easy Money because that is the one that I think will be the least challenging, but give you an idea of what they're about to do.
Yes, I think it has enough solo-y bits, enough jazz soloing, but as you alluded to, Asia frontman John Wetton will have a front and center role for this era of King Crimson, and it's absolutely delightful to hear that beautiful, beautiful voice. So I will chuck in for Jethro Tull's Song from the Woods. I'm going to go with what I consider to actually be Jethro Tull's signature song, Velvet Green. So this signature song, and we'll get to it when we get to it, but it's got all of the hurdy-gurdy skipping on a medieval path in, Nottingham Forest type of feel to it, but also incredible lyrics, incredible singing, just all around a 6-minute wonder from Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That was the 3 parts of season 2, the Tapas, the Ian's 4 Gems, and the Rising Phoenix / Dumpster Fire era, and this is when prog became prog.
It's the brightest it will shine.
It's the brightest it will shine before we go into its strange, strange, strange afterlife, but that will be season 3. So, for now, I have been your host, Ian Prize. I'm joined by my friend Orion Robison.
Thanks, Ian, and thanks everyone for joining us.
We hope you enjoy season 2 of A Sort of Young Person's Guide to Prog Rock. Ciao for now.